I had just signed the papers for the most beautiful house I had ever seen in my life. It had taken 65 years to save every single dollar to buy this property with a garden and 3 spacious rooms. Sherry Watson, widowed, a retiree, but finally the owner of something that truly belonged to me. The keys felt heavy in my hand, like a fulfilled promise after decades of hard work in the manufacturing plant, where I had saved every cent I could. Tomorrow I would move. Tomorrow my new life would begin in this house that smelled of fresh paint and had huge windows that let in all the world's light. I had personally chosen every detail, from the furniture to the beige curtains that perfectly matched the brown leather sofas I had bought on an installment plan. Everything was ready, everything was perfect, until the phone rang that afternoon. It was Wanda, my only daughter, with that voice I knew all too well when she wanted something from me. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something important regarding the new house. Come over for dinner tonight. There's something you need to know." Something in her tone gave me a bad feeling in my stomach, but she was my daughter. I had raised her alone after her father left us when she was just 8 years old. I had given her everything I could. Perhaps that was why I had never learned to say no to her. I arrived at her house promptly at 7 p.m., as always. Wanda greeted me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. There were 3 place settings on the table, but there were only 2 of us. "Are we waiting for someone else?" I asked as I sat down. "No, Mom, I just wanted you to know that tomorrow when you move in, you won't be alone in the house." It felt like ice water had been poured down my spine. "What do you mean, Wanda?" She poured the coffee without looking directly at me. Her hands trembled slightly, but her voice was resolute, almost cold. "My in-laws are going through a difficult time. Sheila and Todd lost their apartment, and Connie, my husband's sister-in-law, just got divorced and has nowhere to stay." My heart began to pound faster. "And what does that have to do with me?" "They're going to live with you in the new house. Everything is already arranged. Todd will help you with the garden expenses, and Sheila can cook for you. Connie is very neat, she'll help you clean." I was silent for a moment that felt like an eternity. My daughter's words hung in the air like invisible daggers piercing my chest. "Wanda, I bought this house with my money, with my lifelong savings." "Mom, don't be so selfish. It's a 3-bedroom house. You have more than enough room." Selfish. The word escaped me before I could stop it. I worked 40 years to buy this house. It's my refuge, my place of peace. Wanda set the cup down with a dry clink. She looked at me with a coldness I had never seen in her eyes. "Your opinion doesn't matter, Mom. It's already decided. They're coming with me tomorrow at 10 a.m. I stood up from the chair, feeling as if the floor swayed beneath my feet. My own daughter, the child I had given everything to, was taking away the only thing that truly belonged to me. "You gave them the keys to my house without asking me?" "It's what's best for everyone, Mom. You'll get used to it." I left her house without another word. My legs trembled as I walked to the bus stop. In the reflection of the bus window, I saw an older woman with tear-filled eyes that she refused to shed. But somewhere deep in my chest, something other than sadness began to grow. It was anger, it was wounded dignity, it was the silent strength of one who had been underestimated for too long. A plan began to form. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my old armchair, staring out the window, meticulously planning what I would do the next day. By sunrise, everything was clear. I got up with a determination I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't just anger driving me, it was something much deeper. It was the self-respect I had lost somewhere along the way. By 6 a.m., I was already dialing numbers on my phone. The first was the moving company. "Good morning, Sherry Watson here. I need to cancel the moving service scheduled for today." "Ms. Watson, but the truck is already on its way. If you cancel now, you'll have to pay a penalty." "No problem. Deduct it from my deposit." I knew I was losing money, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was investing in my dignity. The second call was more difficult. It was to the furniture store where I had bought everything for the new house.
"Paul, this is Sherry Watson.
I bought a complete living and dining room set last week.
You need to return everything.
But Ms. Watson, the furniture has already been delivered to the address you provided. I know. I'm on my way there with the keys. You can pick everything up this morning. I'll pay the extra transportation fee. Are you sure? You'll lose a 15% restocking fee. I'm completely sure. My voice was firm, though I knew internally that this furniture represented months of extra work at the factory. Hours standing at the sewing machine, stitches that made my fingers ache at night. The third call was to the cable company. I want to cancel the installation scheduled for today at the new address. Any technical issues, Ms. Watson? No, I just don't need it anymore. The fourth call went to the air conditioning technician who was supposed to install the unit I'd bought on credit. Mr. David, I'm canceling today's installation. Ms. Watson, but the AC unit is already paid for. Only the installation is left. You can keep it. Consider it a bonus. One by one, I cancelled every service, the internet, the landline phone, the gardener I had hired to keep the garden I was so looking forward to beautiful, the bottled water delivery company that was supposed to supply me. I even cancelled the electrician who was supposed to install additional lights. Each call was like removing a blindfold from my eyes. I realized how many dreams I had placed in that house, how many nights I had lain awake imagining every detail, every moment I would experience there. By 7:30 a.m., I had completed all cancellations. I brewed myself a strong coffee and sat down to examine the house papers. All documents were in my name. Every signature was mine. Every dollar invested came from my bank account. The lesson and a new beginning. By 8 a.m., I was ready. I put on my dark green dress that made me feel elegant and walked to my new house. My house that would no longer be my home. The bus ride took 40 minutes. Throughout the ride, other passengers got on and off, each with their morning routines, their jobs, their own lives that seemed more orderly than mine. An elderly lady like me carried bags of groceries from the market. I wondered if she also had children who made decisions for her. When I arrived, the furniture store workers were already waiting. I opened the door for them and watched as they carried out, one by one, all the furniture I had chosen with such love. The brown sofa where I wanted to read in the afternoons, the dining table where I imagined hosting guests for Thanksgiving, the king-size bed where I wanted to sleep peacefully after so many years of worry. Are you sure you want to take everything, Ms. Watson? Asked the foreman, a burly man who seemed to understand nothing of what was happening. Completely sure. Didn't you like something? Can we swap a piece for another? No, everything was perfect. I just don't need it here anymore. It was strange to see the house empty, but with each piece of furniture carried out, I felt lighter, as if shedding an illusion that had never truly been mine. The workers took the new refrigerator, the microwave, the washing machine, even the pictures I had bought to bring life to the walls. One of them asked me if they should take the basic curtains as well. Yes, take everything that isn't permanently attached to the wall. When they were done, the house was completely empty. Only the white walls and the echo of my footsteps reverberated through the empty rooms. I walked through each room one last time, the master bedroom where I had dreamed of my own space, the guest room where I thought relatives would visit, the third room I had imagined as my little library. All empty, all just echo. I sat on the floor of the dining room and pulled a piece of paper and a pen from my purse. It was the same pen I had used to sign the purchase agreement just a week before. I wrote a short letter, but every word was carefully chosen. Wanda, Sheila, Todd, and Connie. This house was bought with the money from my 40 years of work. Money I earned by sewing from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m., skipping meals to save every cent. Money I accumulated through decades of sacrificing small luxuries to fulfill this dream. If you wanted a free house, you should have asked me before you made the decision for me. The keys are on this letter. The house is yours now. Do with it what you will, but don't count on me to finance the dreams of others. With the deepest pain in my heart, but with a clear conscience. Sherry. I placed the keys on the letter in the exact center of what used to be the living room. The metallic clink of the keys on the floor echoed through the empty house like a bell announcing the end of something. I left without looking back. I closed the front door and walked to the street where the taxi I had called was already waiting. Where to, Ms. Watson? Downtown, to the Grand Central Hotel. Do you have luggage? No, I only have the essentials with me. During the ride, I didn't cry. I regretted nothing. I only felt a strange peace, like when you've cleaned a deep wound. It hurts, but you know it was necessary. At the hotel, I asked for a simple room. I only needed a place where I could quietly think about what I would do with the rest of my life. The receptionist, a young girl with a friendly smile, looked at me curiously as I paid for an entire week in cash. Are you on vacation in the city, Ms. Watson?
No, my dear, I'm starting a new life.
Her eyes lit up with a mixture of curiosity and admiration. It probably wasn't common to hear a woman my age talk about starting over. How exciting. I hope you enjoy your stay. I went up to my room and sat by the window overlooking the main square. It was a modest but clean room with a single bed, a small desk, and a view that calmed me. People hurried across the square, each with their own problems, their own dreams. I wondered how many of them had been betrayed by those they loved most. I opened the window to let in the fresh morning air. Under a large tree, an old man sat on a bench feeding pigeons. He looked so serene, so at peace with himself. It had been years since I'd felt that way. Unexpected encounters and insights. At 10:15 a.m., my phone rang. It was an unknown number. Ms. Sherry Watson? Yes, this is she. This is Kirk Jenkins. I'm your neighbor from the new house. Well, your next-door neighbor.
My heart sped up a little.
What did the neighbor want? Good morning, Mr. Jenkins. How can I help you? Ms. Watson, excuse the intrusion, but something strange is happening at your house. About an hour ago, a moving truck arrived, but instead of bringing things in, well, they're taking them out. I smiled involuntarily. It was strange to feel someone cared about me, even if it was a stranger. Don't worry, Mr. Jenkins. Everything is under control. Are you sure? Because I also saw the furniture company carrying out sofas and a big table. And now there's a delivery van with appliances. His voice sounded genuinely worried. He was an older man, you could tell by his slow and polite tone. That's very kind of you to worry. Yes, I authorized all of that. Oh. Well, I saw you so excited yesterday when you were checking the garden. I thought something bad had happened. You saw me in the garden yesterday? Yes, Ms. Watson. I was watering my plants when you came with a notebook, taking notes. You looked so happy planning where you would plant the flowers. A lump formed in my throat. It was true. Yesterday afternoon, I had measured the garden, imagining where I would plant the roses I so desired. It had been one of the happiest moments in recent weeks. Yes, I had many plans for that garden. I didn't anymore. An awkward silence ensued. I didn't know how to explain to a stranger what had happened. The situation has changed, Mr. Jenkins. Well, Ms. Watson, I don't interfere in other people's business, but if you need anything, I live alone in the house next door. I'm a widower too. I know what it's like to be alone at this stage of life. His words struck me right in the heart. It had been a long time since anyone had spoken to me with such warmth, without wanting anything in return. That's very kind, Mr. Jenkins, truly. By the way, Ms. Watson, a van with 4 people just arrived. A very upset young woman and 3 older people with suitcases. At 10:30 a.m., my phone rang again. This time it was Wanda. Mom, what have you done? The house is completely empty. Her voice sounded hysterical, angry. But there was something else in it too, genuine panic. Hello, Wanda. How was the move? Don't joke. Where's all the furniture? Where's the TV? Sheila and Todd are standing in an empty house with their suitcases. Oh, that. I returned everything. I wouldn't need it. Are you crazy?
How could you do the meeting like that?
Do you have any idea what that cost? Of course I do. I paid for it. Mom, you have to fix this immediately. Todd already spent money on the moving truck. Sheila brought food to cook today. Wanda, I don't have to fix anything. You made decisions for me. Now you figure out how to solve it. This is ridiculous. You're selfish, a bitter old woman. The words hurt more than I expected. It was my daughter talking to me like that. The child I had raised with so much love was now yelling at me as if I were her enemy. Where are you? Get over here right now. I looked out the hotel window. The old man was still feeding the pigeons in the square. He looked calm, unhurried, without yelling on the phone. I'm not coming, Wanda. I've done my part. I bought the house. The rest is your problem. Mom, this can't be happening. Sheila is crying. She says she feels humiliated. Wanda, did you ever stop to ask yourself how I felt? What do you mean? Did you ask yourself if I wanted to share my house? If I had worked 40 years to have constant guests? If my dream was to become a free boarding house? Mom, don't overreact. It was only temporary. How long? A month, a year, until they find work? And if they don't find any, should I kick them out then? Silence fell on the other end of the line. This won't stand. Mom, you're right. This won't stand, because now I'm going to decide what I do with my life. And for the first time in many years, I'll decide alone. Wait, don't hang up. But I had already hung up. I turned off my phone and put it in the bedside drawer. Through the window, I saw a bus full of tourists arrive. They got out with cameras and maps, excited to discover the city. They laughed, took photos, pointed at historic buildings. I wondered when I had last felt that excitement for something new. I decided to go down to the square and take a walk. I needed fresh air and movement after that call. The square was beautiful. It had large trees that provided shade, green-painted wrought iron benches, and a fountain in the middle around which children ran while their mothers watched them from the benches. I approached the old man feeding pigeons. He had completely white hair and wore a freshly pressed, cream-colored shirt. Good morning, I said. Good morning, Ms. Watson. Do you like pigeons too? Honestly, I've never really observed them. They're very intelligent animals. Each has its own personality. The gray one over there is very shy, and the white one with spots is the most voracious of all. I watched him feed the birds with breadcrumbs from a paper bag. There was something very peaceful in his movements, very deliberate. Do you come here every day? Every day since I retired. My wife died 5 years ago, and my daughter lives in another country. At first, I came because I didn't know what to do with so much free time. Now I come because the pigeons are waiting for me. Don't you sometimes feel lonely? I've learned that being alone is not the same as being lonely. If you are at peace with yourself, loneliness can be very good company. His words echoed in my head like a bell. Being alone is not the same as being lonely. May I sit for a moment? Of course, Ms. Watson. What's your name? Sherry. Sherry Watson. Pleased to meet you, Ms. Watson. I'm Kirk Jenkins. Kirk Jenkins? Why, we know each other. You called me this morning. You're my neighbor. He looked at me with wide eyes. You're the lady from the new house? The one with the garden? I'm not anymore. Kirk stopped feeding the pigeons and looked at me attentively. What happened, Ms. Watson? And for the first time since last night, I felt the need to tell someone the whole truth. I told Kirk everything, from the moment I signed the house papers to Wanda's angry call that morning. He listened without interrupting, nodding occasionally. His eyes reflected an understanding I hadn't found in anyone for a long time. Ms. Watson, he said when I finished my story, you did the right thing. Do you really believe that? Of course. I have 3 children, and since I became a widower, all 3 have had brilliant ideas about what I should do with my house, with my money, with my time. The oldest wants me to move into a nursing home so he can sell my house. The middle one wants me to lend him money for his business. And the youngest wants me to live with her to babysit her children for free. And what do? I tell them no. At first, they were angry. They didn't visit me for months, but then they realized their father wasn't a fool who could be easily manipulated. Kirk was right, but it hurt to come to that realization. It's just that Wanda is my only daughter. I raised her alone after her father left. And that's exactly why, Ms. Watson, you gave her everything. Now she thinks she's entitled to everything you own. A pigeon approached my feet and looked at me expectantly. Kirk gave me some crumbs. Here, take this one. Her name is Hope. She's the bravest of all. Feeding Hope calmed me. There was something soothing in that small act of generosity without expectations. Kirk, may I ask you something? Of course. How did you learn to be alone without being lonely? He thought for a moment, looking at the fountain where a young mother chased her small child. I think I started to understand it when I stopped expecting others to fill my life and started filling it myself. At first, it was hard. I was used to my day revolving around Anna, my wife. When she died, I didn't know what to do with myself. And what did you do? I started small. One day I got up and decided to cook something that wasn't fried eggs. Then I decided to fix the broken things in the house myself instead of calling my children. After that, I started walking aimlessly, and when I knew it was okay, was the day I realized I could spend a whole day without looking at the phone, waiting for a call. The day I got excited about something I was going to do just for myself. His words struck me deeply. It had been years since I had gotten excited about something that was just for me. Kirk, do you think I'm too old to start over? Ms. Watson, my grandmother started learning piano at 70. She said she had been too busy raising children and grandchildren to do something purely for pleasure. She died at 85, playing waltzes. I smiled for the first time in days. Really? Really? And you have at least 20 years to learn piano, paint, dance, French cooking, whatever comes to mind. I was silent for a moment, watching Hope peck at the crumbs around my feet.
Kirk, can I tell you a secret?
Of course. My entire adult life, I dedicated myself to being the perfect mother for Wanda. I worked, cooked, cleaned, helped her with homework. I went to school meetings. I never had time to ask myself what I liked. And now I realize I don't even know my favorite color. I always bought clothes that were practical, not ones I liked. What color are you wearing today? I looked at my dark green dress. Green. Do you like it? Yes, I feel elegant in it. Then that can be a good start to getting to know yourself. At that moment, my phone rang. It was Wanda again. This time, I didn't turn it off, but I also didn't answer it. I let it ring until it stopped. Was that your daughter? Yes. Are you going to answer her? No, not yet. I need time to think. Kirk nodded understandingly. Ms. Watson, may I give you some advice? Please don't make important decisions when you're angry. But don't make them when you're scared either. Make them when you're calm. And how will I know when I'm calm? When you can think about the problem without it hurting your chest. I took a deep breath. My chest still hurt when I thought of Wanda. Then I'm not ready yet. No hurry, Ms. Watson. Time is the only thing we truly have. We sat in silence, feeding pigeons for almost an hour. It was a pleasant silence without pressure, without expectations. It had been years since I had experienced this feeling of peace.
Kirk, may I ask you one more thing?
As often as you like. Do you think I'm a bad mother for doing what I did? Kirk stopped scattering crumbs and looked me directly in the eyes. Ms. Watson, a good mother is not one who lets her child walk all over her. No, a good mother is not one who teaches her child that they can make decisions for others without consulting them. No, a good mother is not one who accepts everything to avoid conflict. No, you were not a bad mother. You were a mother who finally decided to teach her daughter a very important lesson. What lesson? That actions have consequences, and that respect is not optional, not even in family. His words comforted me more than I expected. You know what hurts me the most, Kirk? What? When Wanda yelled at me on the phone, she didn't regret treating me disrespectfully. She sounded angry because her plan hadn't worked. That hurts, I know, but it also gives you very valuable information about who your daughter truly is at this moment in her life. What do you mean, that the Wanda you raised, the sweet and grateful child, may have been lost somewhere along the way, but that doesn't mean she can't be found again. And if she's never found, then you've learned something painful but necessary, and you can decide how to deal with her based on reality, not on your hopes. The phone rang again. This time it was an unknown number. MS. Sherry Watson. Yes, this is she. This is Sheila. I should be your Sheila. This is very awkward. Sheila sounded nervous, embarrassed. Hello, Sheila. Ms. Watson, I wanted to apologize. I didn't know Wanda hadn't asked you if we could stay with you. Really, I didn't know. No, Ms. Watson. She told us you insisted that we stay with you because you felt very lonely, that you wanted company. It felt like a punch to the stomach. She told you that? Yes, Ms. Watson, that's why we agreed. We thought we were doing you a favor. When we arrived this morning and saw the empty house, and then Wanda started yelling, we realized something was wrong. Sheila, where are you now? At the house, Ms. Watson. We don't know what to do. Todd is trying to calm Wanda down, but she's beside herself. And Connie says this is very awkward and we should leave. And what do you want to do, Ms. Watson? We don't want to be a burden. If you want us to leave, we'll go. We can look for another place. For the first time since yesterday, someone spoke to me with respect and consideration. Sheila, may I ask you something? Of course, Ms. Watson. Do you really need a place to live? Yes, Ms. Watson, we lost our apartment because the landlord is demolishing it. We have a month to find something, but with our pension, it's very difficult to find something decent. I understand, Ms. Watson. What Wanda did was very wrong. You had the right to decide about your own house. Kirk looked at me attentively. I could see in his eyes that he noticed something important was happening in this conversation. Sheila, Todd, may I think about it? Of course, Ms. Watson. And again, apologies for this misunderstanding. When I hung up, Kirk asked me, what are you going to do? I don't know yet, but I think I'm starting to understand something. What? That maybe the problem wasn't that they were living with me, but that no one asked me if I wanted them to. Kirk nodded slowly, as if he had been waiting for me to reach that conclusion. Ms. Watson, there's a big difference between helping because you want to and being forced to help. Exactly. If Sheila and Todd really need help, and if they had asked me respectfully, I might have said yes, but Wanda decided for me, and that's what I can't forgive. And what will you do now? I watched the pigeons. Hope had brought 2 more, and now all 3 pecked near us. It was as if they had formed a small family around us. I think I'm going to talk to Sheila and Todd, but without Wanda. That seems reasonable. Kirk, do you think I'm foolish for considering helping them after everything that happened? No, Ms. Watson, I think you're wise. You're separating the people who acted with respect from those who didn't. A new arrangement and the confrontation. That afternoon, I returned to the hotel and called Sheila. Sheila, this is Sherry Watson. Ms. Watson, how are you?
I'm fine, Sheila.
Could you, Todd, and I talk without Wanda? Of course, Ms. Watson. Where would you like to meet? Do you know the Daily Grind Cafe downtown? Yes, Ms. Watson. Can you be there by 5 p.m.? Certainly. And Connie can come too if she wants. I'll ask her and get back to you. An hour later, I arrived at the cafe. It was a small, cozy place with wooden tables and the scent of freshly brewed coffee in the air. Sheila and Todd were already sitting at a table in the back. They looked nervous but respectful. Sheila was a woman in her 60s with gray hair pulled back in a simple bun and a pale yellow blouse. Todd seemed a few years older, with a white mustache and a freshly pressed light blue shirt. Both stood up when they saw me coming. Ms. Watson, thank you for agreeing to speak with us, Todd said, extending his hand. Please sit down. We sat at the table. The waitress came, and we ordered coffee for the 3 of us. Connie won't be coming? No, Ms. Watson, Sheila replied. She says it's too awkward for her, and she prefers to look for another solution. I understand. Well, I wanted to talk to you to clarify some things. Of course, Ms. Watson. First, I want you to know that I'm not angry with you. I'm angry with my daughter for the way she handled the whole situation. Sheila and Todd exchanged a look of relief. Second, I want to understand exactly what Wanda told you and what your actual situation is. Todd spoke. Ms. Watson, we've lived in an apartment in the historic district of Maple Grove for 15 years. The building owner died, and his heirs decided to sell the property to a construction company. We were given 3 months' notice and couldn't find another place. We looked, Ms. Watson, Sheila continued. But with our pension, most places we can afford are in very poor condition or in very dangerous neighborhoods. How much is your pension? Combined? About $950 a month, Todd replied. It was a small amount. I understood why they had difficulty finding anything decent. And how did you meet Wanda? She's our daughter-in-law, Sheila explained. She's been married to our son Brett for 8 years. Is Brett okay with you living in my house? Sheila and Todd looked at each other uncomfortably. Well, Ms. Watson, Todd said. Brett works in another country. He went there 6 months ago for better job opportunities. He knows what happened today. We sent him a message, but because of the time difference, he hasn't responded yet. The waitress brought our coffees. I took a sip as I processed the information. Sheila, Todd, I want to ask you a direct question. Did you really believe that I insisted you stay with me? Sheila lowered her gaze first. Yes, Ms. Watson, Wanda told us that you felt very lonely in that big house and that you had mentioned you would like company. But when we arrived this morning and saw her face when she took Wanda's call, we realized something was wrong, Todd admitted. What made you realize that? The way Wanda screamed on the phone, Sheila said. A daughter doesn't scream at her mother like that unless she knows she's doing something wrong. Their insight surprised me. And what will you do now, Ms. Watson? Todd said. We don't want to be a burden to anyone. If you prefer us to look for another place, we completely understand. But what would you do? Where would you go? We have some savings, Sheila explained. We could rent a room in a boarding house for a month or 2 while we look for something more permanent. A room for both of you? Yes, Ms. Watson. It's not ideal, but we've lived under worse conditions. I looked at them both. They were humble, polite people who found themselves in a difficult situation through no fault of their own. It was completely different from the image I had formed of ruthless people who wanted to live for free. Sheila, Todd, may I make you a suggestion? Of course, Ms. Watson. How about we try it for a month? You looked at each other, surprised. What kind of arrangement, Ms. Watson? You can stay in the house. I'll pay for the necessary basic furniture. A bed, a small table, 2 chairs, a used refrigerator. Nothing luxurious, but functional. Ms. Watson, we can't accept that without paying you something, Todd protested. Let me finish. You would help me with certain things. Todd, you could take care of the garden and do minor repairs. Sheila, if you like to cook, you could prepare meals for me a few times a week. And where would you live? Sheila asked. I'll stay in my hotel room for now. I need time to think about what I want to do with my life. But Ms. Watson, Todd said, it's your house. You should live there. Todd, after what happened, that house no longer feels like my home. Maybe later, but not now. Sheila had tears in her eyes. Ms. Watson, why would you do this for us after everything that happened? Because you treat me with respect. Because you ask me instead of deciding for me, and because I believe everyone deserves a second chance. And what about Wanda? Todd asked. Wanda needs to learn that actions have consequences. If she wants to be part of this arrangement, she must first apologize to me and show that she can respect me. Do you think she will? I don't know, but that's her decision. Sheila reached out and touched my hand on the table. Ms. Watson, you're an angel. No, Sheila, just a woman learning to set boundaries. When could we start? Tomorrow, if you like. I'll take care of buying the essentials and having them delivered. And how much rent would we pay you? $250 a month to cover basic costs, and you take care of the food. Todd and Sheila looked at each other, excited. Ms. Watson, Todd said, that's less than we paid in the previous apartment. I know, but I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing it because I believe it's the right thing to do. What should we do? You keep the house clean and well-maintained, you respect me as the owner, and you understand that this is a temporary agreement while we all decide what we want to do long-term. Perfect, Ms. Watson, they said simultaneously. There's one more condition. What? If Wanda shows up at the house without having spoken to me first, don't let her in. This is my house, and I decide who can be there. Understood? Understood, Ms. Watson, Todd said firmly. And Connie? Connie decided to look for another place. She says she doesn't want to get involved in family problems, Sheila explained. Better for everyone. We talked for another hour. They told me about their lives, their previous jobs, their worries. They were good people who had just had bad luck. It was comforting to talk to people who treated me as a person with the right to an opinion about her own life. When we said goodbye, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. I had made a decision for myself, based on what I thought was right, without letting others decide for me. The truth comes to light. That evening, as I ate dinner alone in my hotel room, my phone rang. It was Wanda. This time, I answered. Hello, Wanda. Mom, Sheila told me you're still going to live in the house. Is that true? Yes, but that's exactly what I planned from the beginning. No, Wanda, what you planned was to force me to take in guests without asking me. What I decided was to help Sheila and Todd because they asked me respectfully. That's the same thing. It's not the same thing. And if you can't see the difference, then we have a much bigger problem than I thought. Mom, I don't understand why you're being so dramatic, Wanda continued. In the end, everyone wins. Sheila and Todd have a home. You have company, and I'm relieved to know you're not alone. Her words confirmed to me that she truly didn't understand what she had done wrong. Wanda, do you hear what you're saying? What do you mean? You're talking as if I'm an object to be managed, as if my house is yours to dispose of, as if my feelings don't matter. Oh, Mom, don't overreact. I'm not overreacting. I'll give you an example. How would you feel if tomorrow I came to your house and told you I had decided that 3 people were going to live with you without asking you? That's different. Why is it different? Why? Because you're my mom. And because I'm your mom, I don't have the right to decide about my own life? Silence fell on the other end of the line. Mom, I just wanted to help. Wanda, if you really wanted to help, you would have asked me first. You would have said, Mom, Sheila and Todd need a home. Would you be comfortable with them staying with you for a while? And then I could have decided. And you might have said yes, possibly, but we'll never know because you didn't give me the opportunity to choose. Wanda sighed. All right, Mom, maybe I should have asked you first. Maybe not, Wanda. You definitely should have asked me. I've already told you that maybe I should have handled it differently. What else do you want? Her tone remained defensive, as if she were doing me a favor by partially admitting her mistake. I want you to understand that what you did was wrong. Not maybe wrong, but wrong. My God, Mom, do you want me to get on my knees and beg for forgiveness? I want you to respect that I am an adult capable of making my own decisions. I want you to understand that you cannot dispose of my life without consulting me. And yes, I want a sincere apology, not a half-hearted one. This is ridiculous. For you, perhaps. For me, it's the difference between having a relationship with you and not having one. Are you threatening me? I'm not threatening you. I'm explaining the consequences of your actions. You know what, Mom? Do what you want. You've always been very stubborn anyway. And she hung up. I stared at the phone for several minutes. It was incredible how Wanda had managed to make me the problem in the situation. According to her, I was dramatic, overreactive, and stubborn. At no point had she truly taken responsibility for her actions. That night, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned in bed, thinking of all the times Wanda had made decisions for me over the years. Little things I had ignored at the time because it was easier or because she was just trying to help. The time she decided I needed to change doctors because mine was too old. The time she gave away my old sewing machine because I wasn't using it anymore, without asking me. The time she cancelled my newspaper subscription because the news only depressed me. I realized that the house problem hadn't been an isolated incident. It was the culmination of years of disrespect disguised as care. Setting the course for a new life. The next day, I got up early and went to buy used furniture. I found a store that sold well-maintained items at reasonable prices. I chose a simple double bed, a small dining table with 2 chairs, a good working refrigerator, and a modest but comfortable sofa. All this going to the same address? The salesman asked. Yes, and I need it delivered this afternoon. Setting up an entire house? Something like that. After that, I went to the grocery store and bought staples: rice, beans, oil, salt, some canned goods, coffee, sugar, enough for Sheila and Todd to cook for the first few days. By 3 p.m., I arrived at the house. Sheila and Todd were waiting for me in the front yard, sitting on the porch with their 2 suitcases beside them. Ms. Watson, we didn't know if you would come, Sheila said, quickly standing up. I told you I would come, and here I am. What do we do about the keys? Todd asked. Wanda took the ones she had, and we don't know if you want us to keep them. I have my set of keys. I'll give you copies later. The delivery vans arrived an hour later. It was satisfying to see the empty house come back to life, but this time on my own terms. Sheila and Todd worked with me to set everything up. Todd proved to be very handy assembling furniture, and Sheila had a good eye for organizing rooms functionally. Ms. Watson, Sheila said to me as we were setting up the kitchen, we don't know how to thank you. Don't thank me. This is good for all of us. When will you move in? I don't know yet. I need time to think. The truth was, I liked the independence of the hotel. For the first time in a long time, I had a space that was entirely mine, into which no one could enter without my permission, where I could make decisions without asking anyone. Ms. Watson, Todd said to me, my son Brett called last night from overseas. Oh, yes? And what did he say? He's very ashamed of what Wanda did. He says he never asked her to find us a house. And he didn't know she had done all this without consulting you. Will Brett be coming back soon? No, Ms. Watson. He got a good job there and plans to stay at least 2 more years. But he says when he comes back, he'll be responsible for us. And what do you want to do? Sheila and Todd looked at each other. Ms. Watson, Sheila said, if you allow us to stay here for these 2 years, we would save enough to make a down payment on a small apartment when Brett returns. That's a long time. We know. If it's too much for you, we can look for something else. I looked at the 2 of them. In 2 days, they had shown me more consideration and respect than my own daughter had in years. Let's see how the first month goes, I told them. If we all feel comfortable, we can talk about extending the agreement. Their faces lit up. Really?
The strength of the new woman.
That afternoon, while Sheila cooked and Todd worked in the garden, I sat on the porch and read a book I had bought at the hotel. It was a novel about a woman who traveled alone through Europe after her husband died. It had been years since I had read for pleasure. Kirk appeared in his garden and greeted me over the fence. Ms. Watson, how are you? Very well, Kirk.
Have you met Sheila and Todd yet?
Yes, they're very nice. Todd offered to help me prune my trees. They're good people. Kirk approached the fence separating our gardens. And how do you feel about your decision? I feel good. I feel like I've regained control of my life. And your daughter, Wanda, still doesn't understand what she did wrong? No. But that's her problem, not mine. Kirk nodded. Ms. Watson, may I tell you something? Of course. Since I've known you, and that's only been 2 days, I've seen how much you've changed. Yesterday you looked like a defeated woman. Today you look like a woman who knows what she wants." His words touched my heart. "Thank you, Kirk." "Will you be having dinner with Sheila and Todd?" "No, I'm going back to the hotel. I still need my space." "That's very wise." That evening, as I ate dinner in the hotel restaurant, the young receptionist who had served me on the first day came up to me. "Ms. Watson, how's your new life going?" "Very well, thank you." "May I ask you something personal?" "Of course." "How did you know it was time for a change?" The question surprised me. "Why do you ask?" "I'm 25 years old, and I feel like everyone else makes decisions for me. My boyfriend, my parents, my boss. Sometimes I feel like I don't have a voice in my own life." I recognized myself in her words. "You know what made me change?" "What?" "I realized that if I didn't defend my right to self-determination, no one else would." "But weren't you scared?" "Terrified. But I was more afraid of continuing to live as if my opinion didn't matter."
The girl smiled.
"You're very brave."
"I'm not brave."
"I'm just tired of being invisible in my own life." That night, I slept better than I had in a long time. For the first time in years, I felt like I held my own destiny in my hands. But I knew the hardest part was yet to come, the deeper reasons for Wanda's behavior. The next morning, the phone woke me. It was an unknown number. "Ms. Sherry Watson?" "Yes, who's speaking?" "This is Brett, Wanda's husband. I'm calling from the States." My heart quickened. Brett had always been respectful towards me, but we hadn't spoken in months. "Hello, Brett. How are you?" "Ms. Watson, first I want to sincerely apologize for what happened. My parents told me everything, and I'm very ashamed." "Brett, you don't have to apologize for something you didn't do." "Yes, I do, because Wanda is my wife and acted on behalf of my family without my permission." "Have you talked to her?" "Last night we had a very long, and very difficult conversation. And Ms. Watson, I didn't know Wanda had lied to my parents. I never asked her to find them a house, and certainly not to force you to take them in." "What did she say when you confronted her?" Brett sighed deeply. "First she tried to justify herself, saying she just wanted to help everyone. But when I asked her why she hadn't asked you first, she got defensive. And then I asked her directly why she had lied to my parents by telling them you wanted company. That's when she got angry and told me I didn't understand because I wasn't here." "Brett, may I ask you something?" "Of course." "Does Wanda have a habit of making decisions for others without consulting them?" There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Ms. Watson, I'm sorry to admit it, but yes, that's part of the reason I decided to come work here." "What do you mean?" "Wanda, well, she's always had a tendency to want to control everything. At first, I thought it was because she cared a lot about the family, but then I realized she doesn't like others making decisions, not even about their own lives." His words hurt, but they didn't surprise me. "And how is she with them?" "With my parents, she's always been very bossy. She tells them which doctors to see, which medicines to take, which TV shows are good for them. At first, my parents allowed it because they thought it was love. And now my parents told me they're tired of her making decisions for them. That's why they were very relieved when you proposed the agreement, consulting them and respecting their opinion." "Brett, do you think Wanda can change?" "I don't know, Ms. Watson. Last night I told her she had to apologize to you. I honestly explained to her that what she had done was very wrong." "And what did she say?" "That you were overreacting, and that in the end, everything worked out because my parents had a home." "Meaning she still doesn't get it?" "No, Ms. Watson, she doesn't get it."
I processete Information.
It was painful to hear that the problem with Wanda was deeper than I had thought. "Brett, what are you going to do?" "Ms. Watson, I'll be back in a year and a half. When I return, my parents will live with me. But in the meantime, if you are willing to continue helping them, I will send you money every month to cover the costs." "That's not necessary, Brett. The arrangement I have with them is working well." "I insist, Ms. Watson. It's the least I can do after all this trouble. And Wanda? What does she think about that? Wanda needs to learn to live with the consequences of her decisions. After hanging up with Brett, I thought for a long time. It was clear that Wanda had a serious problem with control and disrespect towards others, but it was also clear that I had been part of the problem by allowing her this behavior for years. I decided to walk in the square to clear my head. Kirk was sitting on his usual bench, feeding pigeons. "Good morning, Ms. Watson. How are you this morning?" "With a lot on my mind." "Kirk, want to tell me?" I told him about the conversation with Brett. Kirk listened attentively, while the pigeons pecked around our feet. "You know what hurts me the most, Kirk?" "What?" I realized I allowed Wanda this behavior. Every time she made decisions for me and I said nothing, I taught her it was okay to do it. "MS. Watson, you can't blame yourself if you wanted to avoid conflicts with your daughter. But by avoiding small conflicts, I allowed a much bigger conflict to arise." "That's true, but it's also true that it's never too late to change the dynamic." "But what if Wanda doesn't want to change?" Kirk looked at me with those wise eyes that were already familiar to me. "Then you have to decide what kind of relationship you want to have with someone who doesn't respect you." His words were harsh, but necessary. "Kirk, do you think I'm a bad mother for setting boundaries so late?" "Ms. Watson, a bad mother is one who never sets boundaries. A good mother is one who sets them when she realizes they are necessary, no matter how old her children are." A new path and the final confrontation. That afternoon, I decided to do something I had put off for weeks: look for new activities for my free time. I found a local community center that offered dance classes for seniors. I had never danced in my life, but something about the idea appealed to me. "Never danced?" asked the instructor, a cheerful woman in her 50s named Joanne. "Never, but I've always wanted to learn." "Perfect. No pressure here, just fun." The class was small, only 8 people, all over 60. There were 3 men and 5 women. All with similar stories to mine, people who had spent decades caring for others and now wanted to do something for themselves. "I'm Joanne," a woman with silver gray hair and a fuchsia dress introduced herself. "I started coming after my husband died. At first, I came because I didn't know what to do with so much free time. But now I come because I enjoy it." "I'm Glenn," said a slender gentleman in a white shirt. "My kids told me to watch TV at home, but I wanted something more active." "And what did they say when you told them you were coming to dance class?" I asked him. "At first they made fun of me. Then, when they saw how happy I was, they changed their minds." The class was fun, if a bit clumsy. My feet didn't coordinate well with the music, but I laughed more than I had in months. "How did you feel?" the instructor asked me at the end. "Like I woke up a part of myself that had been sleeping." That's exactly the idea. As I left the community center, I felt different. Lighter, younger, more alive. I decided to walk through downtown instead of taking the bus. There were shops I had never noticed. Cafes with live music, a small bookstore with a travel section. I entered the bookstore and got lost among the shelves. There were books about countries I had never considered. Travel guides for solo women, stories of people who had changed their lives after 60. "Can I help you?" the bookseller asked me, an older man with glasses and a friendly smile. "I'm looking, I don't know exactly what I'm looking for." "Those are the best customers. What kind of things do you like?" "Stories of people who started over when they thought it was too late." "I have just what you need." He led me to a special section and showed me several books. One immediately caught my eye, Never Too Late to Be Who You Want to Be. "This one is very popular with our customers over 60, he told me. I bought the book and sat in a nearby cafe to read it. The first chapter talked about how many people spend decades living the life others expect of them until one day they realize they never asked themselves what they truly wanted. It was as if the book had been written for me. My phone rang. It was Sheila. "Ms. Watson, sorry to bother you." "You're not bothering me, Sheila. What's wrong?" Wanda came again, and this time she came with a man who claims to be an attorney. My blood ran cold. An attorney? For what? She says she wants to review the house papers because she has a legal right to live here. Where are they now? They left when Todd told them they couldn't enter without a court order. Todd knew that. His son Brett had told him on the phone what to say if something like that happened. Brett knew this might happen. Yes, Ms. Watson. Apparently, Wanda had told him she was seeking legal help to solve the problem. I hung up and immediately called Brett. Ms. Watson, I can imagine why you're calling. Brett, what's going on? Wanda hired an attorney to see if she could force you to let them live in the house. Can she do that? No, Ms. Watson, the house belongs entirely to you. You can decide who lives there and who doesn't. Why is she trying then? Because she's desperate, and because she truly believes she has the right to make decisions about your life. Brett, what are you going to do? I've already done something. I told Wanda that if she continues with this, I will no longer be financially responsible for her when I return. Seriously? Yes, seriously, Ms. Watson. What Wanda is doing is wrong, and it's time someone told her clearly. When I hung up, my hands trembled. It was incredible how far Wanda was willing to go to get her way. But I also realized something important. I no longer felt alone in this situation. Sheila, Todd, Kirk, Brett, even the hotel receptionist. Everyone supported me. For the first time in years, I had a support network of people who respected me. It was time to show Wanda that she was no longer dealing with the mother who put up with everything. It was time for the final confrontation. The decisive moment. The next day, I decided to end this situation once and for all. I couldn't live any longer with the constant threat of Wanda showing up with attorneys or finding new ways to pressure me. I called Sheila in the morning. Sheila, I want you to organize something this afternoon. What do you need, Ms. Watson? I want you to call Wanda and tell her I'm willing to talk to her, but on my terms. What terms? The meeting will take place at the house at 5 p.m. You, Todd, Kirk as a witness, and I will be present.
No attorneys, no yelling, no triads.
Are you sure, Ms. Watson? Completely sure. And if she doesn't accept the terms, then there's no meeting. But Sheila, I need to make it very clear to you that this is her last opportunity to speak with me. If she rejects this meeting, or if she comes with attorneys, or if she treats any of those present disrespectfully, there will be no next time. Understood? Understood, Ms. Watson. An hour later, Sheila called me back. Ms. Watson, I spoke with Wanda, and at first, she was very upset. She asked why other people had to be present. What did you say? I told her those were your terms, that she should take them or leave them. And in the end, what did she decide? She's coming, but she said it's ridiculous and that you're being very dramatic. Sheila, are you and Todd willing to be present? Yes, Ms. Watson, we want to support you. I spent the rest of the day mentally preparing for the confrontation. I put on my new emerald green dress that made me feel strong and confident. At 4:30 p.m., I arrived at the house. Sheila had brewed coffee and arranged the chairs in the living room so we could all sit comfortably. Todd had cut some flowers from the garden and placed them in a vase in the center of the table. Kirk arrived promptly at 5 p.m. Ms. Watson, are you ready for this? As ready as one can be. Exactly at 5 p.m., Wanda arrived. I watched her come from the window. She came alone, dressed in a black suit, as if going to a business meeting. Her expression was one of annoyance and determination. Sheila opened the door for her. Hello, Wanda, please come in. Wanda stepped in and looked around the living room. It was the first time she saw the house furnished since I had everything removed. I see you bought new furniture, she said, without greeting me. Hello, Wanda. Yes, I bought the essentials. She sat in the chair opposite me. Sheila and Todd sat on one side, Kirk on the other. Why do all these people have to be here? Wanda asked, annoyed. Because they are witnesses to this conversation, and because they are the people who supported me when you decided to treat me disrespectfully. Mom, this is ridiculous. Wanda, I made the rules of this meeting very clear. If you're not willing to respect them, you can leave now. She adjusted herself in her seat with an exasperated look.
Fine, what do you want me to do?
I want you to explain to me why you thought you had the right to make decisions about my house without consulting me. Mom, we've already talked about this. I just wanted to help Sheila and Todd, and I thought you would want to help them too. Wanda, that's not an explanation, that's a justification. I'm asking you, why didn't you ask me before you decided? Why? Because I knew you would put obstacles in the way. What kind of obstacles? You would have said you didn't have room, or that you didn't know Sheila and Todd well, or that you wanted to be alone. And wouldn't those have been valid reasons? But Mom, you have a 3-bedroom house. You have more than enough room. Wanda, do you understand that the size of my house doesn't give you the right to decide who lives in it? But you've always been very closed off to meeting new people. Kirk leaned forward. Excuse the interruption, but did you ask your mother if she wanted to meet new people? Wanda looked at him angrily. You don't have a say in this. Wanda, I said firmly. Kirk is here because I invited him. Will you treat him respectfully, or do we end this conversation? Fine. Sheila spoke for the first time. Wanda, may I ask you something? What? Why did you tell us your mother wanted us to live with her? Wanda blushed. Why? Because I knew you wouldn't accept it if you thought it was charity. But it was charity, Todd said, and there's nothing wrong with that when it's offered with respect. Wanda, I continued, do you understand that it was also wrong to lie to Sheila and Todd? I didn't lie to them. I just adjusted the truth to make them feel better. That's called lying, Wanda. Oh, Mom, don't be so dramatic. Wanda, that's exactly the attitude that bothers me. Every time I point out something you've done wrong, you tell me I'm dramatic or overreacting. But you are overreacting. Do you find it overreacting that I want to say in my own house? No. But do you find it overreacting that I want to be consulted before you invite people to live with me? No. But do you find it overreacting that my feelings are taken into account? No, but in the end, everything turned out fine. Sheila and Todd have a home. You have company. We all won. Kirk spoke again. Excuse me, Wanda, but do you believe that the end justifies the means? What do you mean? That if the result is good, it doesn't matter how it was achieved. In this case, yes. And if your mother had sold the house out of frustration with all this, would the result still have been good? But she didn't sell the house. But she could have, and it would have been your fault. Wanda was silent for a moment. Look, Mom, maybe I could have handled it differently, but my intentions were good. Wanda, do you know how many times you've told me that in the last few days? What? That you might have handled it differently, that your intentions were good, but you've never said that what you did was wrong. Because I don't think it was that bad. Really. I stood up from my chair and walked to the window overlooking the garden. The roses Todd had planted were blooming beautifully. Wanda, do you know what Brett told me when he spoke with me? What did he say? He told me you have a habit of making decisions for others without consulting them. Is that true, Brett? Is he exaggerating? Are Sheila and Todd exaggerating? Have you noticed this? Sheila and Todd looked at each other uncomfortably. Answer my mother, Wanda said, annoyed. Wanda, Sheila said softly. Sometimes you tell us which doctors to see, which medicines to take, which TV shows are good for us, because you care about us. But you never ask us if we want that help, Todd added. See? I said. I'm not the only one who feels this way. Wanda was silent for several minutes. I could see her processing the information, but also struggling with it. Wanda, I finally said, I need you to understand something very important. What? I love you. You are my daughter and will always be my daughter, but I will not allow you to continue treating me as if my opinion doesn't matter. Mom, I need you to recognize that what you did was wrong. Not mishandled, but wrong. And I need you to sincerely apologize. And if you do that, then we can start rebuilding our relationship, but under new rules.
What rules?
That you respect me as an adult capable of making my own decisions. That you consult me before making plans that involve me, and that you understand that if you don't abide by these agreements, I will set boundaries again. Wanda looked down for a long time. When she lifted her head, there were tears in her eyes.
Mom, it's very hard for me to admit that I was wrong. I know, sweetheart, but it's necessary. I always thought I knew what was best for everyone. And now I realize that maybe I don't always know what's best for others.
It was the first genuine sign of reflection I had seen from her.
Mom, what I did was wrong. I shouldn't have decided for you.
I shouldn't have lied to Sheila and Todd, and I shouldn't have reacted so badly when you confronted me.
And I'm sorry.
I'm truly sorry.
For the first time in weeks, her apology sounded sincere.
Thank you, Wanda. Can we try to start over?
We can try, but it will take time to rebuild trust.
I understand.
And do you understand that Sheila and Todd will stay here until Brett comes back?
Yes, and it's fine. I like seeing them comfortable.
And do you understand that I will continue to live at the hotel until I feel ready to return?
Why?
Because I need time for myself, to get to know myself better, to do things I've never done, like dance classes. Wanda smiled for the first time that afternoon.
You're taking dance classes?
Yes, and it's a lot of fun.
I'm happy for you, Mom.
Wanda, do you know what I wish for you most?
What?
That you are happy, but that you are happy without controlling the lives of others.
I'll try, Mom. That's all I ask.
We stood up and embraced. It wasn't the end of our problems, but it was the beginning of a new way of relating to each other. Sheila served coffee, and we spent the rest of the afternoon talking like a family that respected each other. For the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. That evening, as I returned to the hotel, Kirk walked with me to the bus stop.
Ms. Watson, how are you feeling?
I feel like I've regained my daughter, but also like I've found myself.
That's the best possible combination.
Kirk, thank you for all your support. Ms. Watson, you've taught me something very important.
What?
That it's never too late to stand up for yourself, and that the people who truly love us will respect our boundaries. As the bus took me back to the hotel, I looked out the window at the city lights. I no longer felt like a lost and confused woman. I felt like a woman who had learned to value herself. Tomorrow would be another day to continue building the life I truly wanted to live.
A life where my voice was as important as anyone else's.
A life where respect was non-negotiable. A life that was finally truly mine.